Your hair gets greasy faster than your grandmother's did, and you wash it 3 times as often. Ruth was 38 in 1955. She washed it on a Friday. By Thursday, it still looked like she had just done it. She was not lucky, and her hair was not different from yours. She was doing a dozen small things nobody has told you about, and not one of them costs anything. Number 12 costs pennies and does what the most expensive bottle in your shower only pretends to. Number 13, the last 30 seconds cold. Start with the one that is free, takes half a minute, and works the first time you try it. At the end of a wash, she turned the water cold and rinsed for 30 seconds. Not lukewarm, cold, and cold enough to be unpleasant. The reason is mechanical, and it is the reason for half of this list. A hair is covered in overlapping scales, like roof tiles called the cuticle. When those scales lie flat, light hits a smooth surface and bounces back. That is what shine actually is. When they lift, light scatters and hair reads as dull and rough, no matter how healthy it is underneath. Heat lifts them. Cold helps lay them down. That is the entire trick, and you can test it in the shower tonight. Number 12 does the same job from a different direction, and it is sitting in your kitchen right now. Number 12, the vinegar rinse. 2 tablespoons of vinegar in a cup of water, poured over the head after shampoo, left for a moment, rinsed out. Hair and scalp sit at a pH of about 5.5, which is mildly acidic. Most shampoos are alkaline, and plain water is neutral, so the act of washing pushes hair away from where it wants to be, and the cuticle lifts. An acidic rinse pushes it back down. The scales close, the surface goes smooth, and light reflects instead of scattering. She used ordinary cider vinegar from the kitchen, and it cost a few cents a wash. The smell is the objection everyone raises, and it is a fair one. It goes as the hair dries, but if it bothers you, this is the one place a drop of something scented earns its keep. Every shine serum on a shelf today is trying to do this from the outside with silicone. Vinegar does it by changing the chemistry. If you have been washing your hair every morning and wondering why it never behaves, subscribe. The next one explains why. Number 11, she washed it once a week, Friday, every Friday. That was it. For most of the first half of the 20th century, the standard advice was even further apart than that. Every 2 weeks was normal, and every 4 to 6 weeks was recommended if the hair was in good condition, because the soaps available were harsh enough to strip it. By 1955, shampoo had improved, and weekly was the rhythm. A woman had her hair washed and set on a Friday, and it had to survive until the next Friday, which is why almost every other item on this list exists. They are all maintenance systems for hair that was not going to be washed again for 6 days. The sentence people always want here is that washing daily makes your scalp produce more oil. I am not going to give you that sentence, because the evidence for it is genuinely thin, and I would be making it up. What is not in doubt is simpler. Washing strips, styling with heat damages, and doing both every single day gives hair no interval in which to be left alone, which raises the obvious question, what did she do on the other 6 days? That is most of the rest of this list, and it starts with a brush. By now, you have had the cuticle twice, so here's the part that actually matters. What lifts the scales? Heat, alkaline products, friction, a rough towel. What lays them down? Cold water, acid, oil moving down the shaft, time. Every single remaining item on this list is one of those 2 columns. She was not doing 12 things. She was doing one thing 12 ways, and once you can see the column, you can invent your own. Number 10, the 100 strokes. And here, I have to be straight with you, because this one has been half wrong for 80 years in both directions. The instruction was real, 100 strokes a night with a bristle brush from the scalp all the way to the ends. 100 is too many. Modern hair specialists are clear about this. That much brushing causes mechanical damage, and on fine or fragile hair, it does more harm than anything it achieves. If your hair breaks easily, do not do this. But the mechanism behind it was never nonsense, and this is the part that gets thrown out with it. The scalp produces oil. That oil sits at the root and does nothing for the length. Brushing carries it down the shaft, which conditions the ends, lays the cuticle flat, and produces exactly the shine we have been talking about. 10 to 30 strokes achieves it. 100 was the number because hair was washed once a week or less, and there was a great deal of oil to move. They were right about the reason. They were wrong about the dose. She did not have a routine. She had a rhythm, something done on Friday, something done every night, something done twice a year. The forgotten 1950s. Feminine Routine Manual is 150 pages of how that week actually worked, hour by hour. The link is in the description. I won't mention it again. Number 9. She slept on it. Ruth set her hair before bed, and the setting was the point. Pin curls, a section of damp hair wound flat against the scalp in a coil and held with a clip. Dries in the shape it was wound. Rag curls. For anyone without pins, a strip of torn cotton, the hair wound around it, the ends of the rag tied. Cost nothing, and this is how most girls in America were curled before they were old enough to complain about it. Rollers, larger, softer shape, worn under a scarf. All three do one thing. They set hair as it dries, using time instead of heat. Wet hair takes whatever shape it dries in. That is a physical property of the protein, not a trick, and a night is long enough for the shape to hold. She woke up, took them out, brushed it through, and was finished before the kettle boiled. Number 8, the hairnet. A fine mesh net, pulled over the whole set, worn to bed. It looks faintly comic now, and every woman who wore one has heard a joke about it. It also solved a real problem. A set costs an hour on Friday and has to last 6 days. And the thing that destroys it is friction against a pillow. The net held the shape. That was all it did, and it did it for pennies. The modern equivalent is a silk pillowcase, sold at 40 times the price, doing a slightly worse version of the same job. Both are answers to the same 8 hours of rubbing. Number 7, setting lotion from the kitchen. Before a set, she wet the hair with something that would dry stiff, so the curl held. Shops sold wave set. Plenty of women made it instead. Flat beer, the sugars dry to a light film and hold a curl. It works, the smell goes as it dries, and half the women reading this have heard their mother mention it. Sugar water, a spoon of sugar dissolved in warm water. Same principle, no smell. Lemon in water, lighter hold and slightly acidic, so it does the cuticle job at the same time. Every one of them is a sugar or an acid drying onto the hair shaft. Modern setting sprays are polymers doing the same physical thing at 40 times the price. Number 6, she never put heat on it. There is no hairdryer in this story, and there is no straightener, and there is no curling iron. Hot tools existed. Marcel irons heated on a stove had been around for decades, but they were a salon thing or an occasional thing, and they were understood to be hard on hair. The daily reality was AIR. Wash it, towel it gently, set it, sleep on it, take it out. Shape came from how it dried, not from what was pressed onto it. This is the single largest difference between her hair and yours, and it is also the least convenient thing on this list, because it requires a night rather than 15 minutes. But look again at the cuticle. Heat lifts the scales. Every dry, every straighten, every curl is a small withdrawal, and she simply never made them. Nobody discovered that hair needs washing daily. What happened is arithmetic. Weekly is 52 washes a year. Daily is 365. Same customer, same head of hair, 7 times the shampoo. And the 1950s is exactly when that became possible to sell. The first synthetic detergent shampoos arrived around 1950, milder than the soaps before them, which turned wash it every day from an obviously bad instruction into a reasonable one. Breck alone came in 3 color-coded bottles by then. Dry, oily, normal. That is where the idea that your hair is a type begins. Nobody lied about anything. They moved a weekly act to a daily one, and a daily one needs more bottles. Number 5, oil, on purpose. She put oil on her head deliberately, which sounds backwards to anyone raised on the idea that oil is the enemy. Warm oil worked into the scalp and through the lengths, left for an hour or overnight, then washed out. Olive oil, castor oil, coconut where it was available, mineral oil out of the bathroom cabinet. The scalp makes oil because hair is protein filament with no blood supply of its own past the root. The only conditioning it will ever get comes from outside. Everything on a shelf sold as a mask or a treatment is an attempt to put oil back onto a shaft that we washed it off. She skipped the intermediate step. I went at the same logic from a different angle in the video on what was actually in her bathroom cabinet. That one is on the channel. Number 4, lemon in an afternoon. Lemon juice through the lengths, then sit outside. Citric acid plus sunlight lightens hair a shade or two over a summer. It is slow, it is uneven, and it is genuinely drying if it is overdone. But it cost the price of a lemon, and it did work. And a great many blonde summers in America were produced this way. There is something worth sitting with in the fact that we now pay a salon 3 figures for a slightly more controlled version of a chemical reaction a 15-year-old could set up on a back step with fruit. Number 3, the Toni Home Permanent. The reason so many women in photographs from that decade have the same wave. Nissan and Irving Harris set up the Toni Home Permanent Company in 1944 with one proposition. A salon perm was expensive, and this was the same thing at home for a fraction of it. It took hours. It smelled appalling, and everyone who lived through it will tell you about the smell before they tell you anything else. Whole Saturday afternoons went into it, usually with a sister or a neighbor doing the back. It worked well enough that Toni became a household name, sold dolls with hair you could perm, and put a wave into a generation. This is the one item here that I am not telling you to try. Home perming chemistry has moved on, and the 1950s version was rough on hair. It is on the list because you cannot explain that decade's hair without it. Number 2, the appointment. Friday afternoon, same time every week, same woman doing it. The shampoo and set was not a luxury, and it was not pampering. The styles of that decade were structured in a way that was genuinely difficult to achieve alone in a house with one small bathroom mirror and no decent lighting. So it was a service, priced accordingly, and built into the week like the grocery shop. And because it happened weekly, at a fixed hour, with someone who saw the same head of hair 52 times a year, the person doing it knew that hair, knew what it did in humidity, knew where the cowlick was, knew it was thinning at the temple before the woman herself had noticed. We replaced that with a color appointment twice a year and a YouTube tutorial. Look at what is actually on this list: cold water, vinegar, a brush, a strip of torn cotton, a net, flat beer, a lemon, oil. Total cost of the entire system, a few cents a week, and every single one of them is doing the same thing, working with what the head already does, rather than against it. Number 1 is not a trick. Number 1, she was not fighting her own scalp. The scalp makes oil. That is the whole of its job, and it is not a malfunction. Her entire system was built around moving that oil where it was useful, brushing it down the shaft, leaving it long enough to do something, adding more when the ends were dry. The oil was the conditioner. She just had to distribute it. We treat the same oil as a problem to be removed every morning and then buy something to replace what we removed. She was not doing less because she had less. She was doing less because she had decided her head already knew what it was doing. Ruth washed her hair on a Friday for about 50 years. Her daughter has a photograph from 1961 and cannot work out how it looks like that in a snapshot taken on a Wednesday. The answer is 30 seconds of cold water and a torn strip of cotton. So which of these did your mother do? And which one are you going to try tonight? Both below. I want to know which of them survived in your house and which of them did not.